Modern cyber attacks are constantly evolving. Not long ago, Internet of Things devices and deep fakes didn't even exist. Now they're emerging threats that shouldn't be ignored. This unpredictable change requires organizations to frequently survey the threat landscape and reassess the strength of their cybersecurity. Based on the threats, your organization may need to invest in new technologies and implement new security controls. Hi, my name is Mark Menninger, and welcome to my course, The Cybersecurity Threat Landscape. I've been leading enterprise security programs for more than 20 years, and I'm excited to share with you the latest intelligence about the shifting cybersecurity threat landscape. In this course, I'll cover many of the most common cybersecurity threats, plus some emerging threats you should know about. I'll also show you ways you can protect against these threats and share resources to get more information about them. Keep in mind that the cybersecurity threat landscape may be different for different organizations. If your organization handles a lot of sensitive data, you're likely to be the target of more cybersecurity threats than an organization that doesn't. But it's important to understand today's threat landscape in any case, because for every organization, it's not a matter of if they will be targeted by one of these threats, but when. If you're ready to explore the cybersecurity threat landscape, then let's get started. Malware has been a serious cybersecurity threat to both individuals and organizations since the late 1980s. Ransomware has many of the same characteristics of malware, so it makes sense to examine them together. First, what is malware? Malware is a catch-all term for any software that is designed to gain unauthorized access to computers or network equipment with the goals of causing damage, extracting information, or making money for the attackers. Malware can take on many forms, including viruses, worms, trojans, rootkits, adware, and spyware. A growing form of malware attack is known as cryptojacking. This malware variant exploits a vulnerable computer and uses its resources to mine cryptocurrency. While there are many types of malware, the infection methods are often similar. There are two main ways that systems become infected with malware. The first is system vulnerabilities. These are flaws in hardware or software that allow malware to get installed and function. Usually patches exist to fix these vulnerabilities, but users and organizations don't always apply these patches in a timely manner, leaving themselves exposed. And even old vulnerabilities are still targeted by malware attackers. In 2020, a Microsoft vulnerability first identified back in 2012 was still included in the FBI's list of the top 10 most exploited security flaws. The second most common way that systems get infected with malware is users falling prey to social engineering. This happens when attackers successfully convince a user to download infected software, open an infected email attachment, or connect an infected disk or drive. The system still needs to be vulnerable to the malware that the user introduces for it to work, though. Now let's look at ransomware. Ransomware is a form of malware that has a special purpose. It encrypts data and files on the infected computer and instructs the user to send the attackers money to recover their information. In some cases, attackers will also steal files from the victim's systems and threaten to expose these files to the public to increase the pressure to pay. This is known as double extortion. Ransomware can be a lucrative income for attackers. In 2020, the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, or IC3, received 2,474 ransomware complaints that cost victims over $29.1 million. Of course, these are only the attacks in America that were reported. The actual number of worldwide attacks and money made with ransomware is much higher. Although ransomware can use any of the malware attack techniques I mentioned earlier, one of the most common is the fake urgent email with a malicious link or attachment designed to trick users to click the link or open the attachment. This is a phishing attack, which is another threat I'll cover in this course. Due to their success and huge ransom demands, ransomware attacks have generated a lot of dramatic headlines. like this one about Acer getting charged up to $100 million to get their data back after a ransomware attack. As long as systems remain vulnerable and users keep falling for social engineering attacks, malware and ransomware will continue to be serious components of the cybersecurity threat landscape. A successful malware or ransomware attack can be catastrophic for both individuals and organizations. There are some simple steps you can take, though, to protect against both malware and ransomware. Let's look at 5 of them. First is frequent backups. If your system has been compromised by malware or ransomware, you may have lost access to some or all of the data on that system. If you've been keeping frequent data backups, however, the impact goes from possibly devastating to merely inconvenient. Simply restore the backed up data onto an uninfected system. Backing up your data is especially important to recover from ransomware attacks that specifically target your data. Also, make sure you test your backups. You don't want to attempt restoring your backups in an emergency only to find they're corrupted or not complete. Second, apply security updates and patches. Malware and ransomware can only work on systems that are vulnerable to their attacks. You can significantly reduce your exposure to malware and ransomware attacks by making sure your systems have all their security updates and patches. Next, upgrade to the latest operating system versions. If you've been putting off the expense or hassle of upgrading your operating systems to their most current versions, you could be exposing yourself to vulnerabilities that don't have patches. Plus, current operating systems are often designed to be more secure than previous versions. Fourth, install firewalls. Firewalls are designed to prevent unauthorized traffic from getting directly to your systems. Many forms of malware attempt to exploit systems that are directly connected to the internet without a firewall. There are also types of malware that, once installed, attempt to communicate with a command and control system outside of the infected network. Hardware and software firewalls can block these malicious traffic flows. Finally, install anti-malware software. No matter how much you try to protect your network and systems, malware can still be introduced by accident if a user becomes a victim of social engineering. That's why it's important to install anti-malware software on all systems and make sure the malware signatures are updated at least daily. By following these security controls, you will be significantly reducing your exposure to malware and ransomware. Phishing and smishing are social engineering attacks designed to trick users into sharing sensitive personal information like usernames, passwords, and credit card details with attackers. Let's take a look at what these threats are and how they work. Phishing has been around since the 1990s, but it's still going strong. IBM Security X-Force reported that phishing was the top method of compromise in 2021. The most common phishing technique is to send a fraudulent email to a targeted user. The email is designed to look like it came from a trusted entity, and it will often appear urgent so the recipient will quickly open it. Typically, the email will contain a manipulated link that looks like it goes to a real website. If the user clicks the link, though, it goes to a forged website designed to look like the real thing. Once there, the target will usually be prompted to enter their username and password for the site. If they do, the attacker will now have their credentials for the real site. Depending on the site, this can turn into an immediate loss of information or money for the victim. In some cases, the phishing email won't have a link, it will have a malicious attachment. If the recipient clicks on the attachment, it will often attempt to install ransomware, which is another threat I cover in this course. One of the keys to a successful phishing attack is making the emails look like they came from trusted sources. So phishing attackers frequently co-opt trusted brands like Microsoft, Apple, Google, Chase, and Amazon. Phishing email subject lines often have a certain style. Here are examples of typical subject lines used in phishing emails. Your account will be locked. Important, please log in to your account to verify your info. And invoice due. Note how they sound urgent or at least important enough to not ignore. Spear phishing is a variety of phishing that customizes email attacks to specific users, hoping the illusion of familiarity will create more trust. Smishing has many of the same characteristics of phishing, but instead of sending fraudulent emails, the attackers send SMS texts to the victim's phone. Common smishing text messages often impersonate a bank with an urgent message about how your account has been locked due to suspicious activity, or a recent payment was made and the bank needs your confirmation. Then there's usually a link to a malicious site designed to steal your online banking credentials. Smishing scams can also include text messages about winning a prize that you have to redeem through a website. You should immediately be suspicious of getting anything for free through a text message. Another form of smishing includes text messages impersonating someone you work with, like your boss or the CEO of your company. Threat actors can easily find the company you work for and get your cell phone number to pull off this attack. They'll send a text message pretending to be your boss or CEO and ask you to help them with a task. The task often requires you to buy gift cards to give to employees or clients. If you buy the cards, the attackers will ask you to send them the codes, which will allow them to instantly extract the money off the cards. Because both phishing and smishing attacks are cheap, simple, and effective, we can expect that they will continue to be among the most common attacks on the cybersecurity threat landscape. While phishing may be one of the most common forms of attack on the cybersecurity threat landscape, there are straightforward ways to protect against it. Let's look at 5 steps you can take which can reduce your exposure to the threat of phishing. First, implement email filtering controls. Since phishing uses malicious emails, the better you get at blocking them, the more you'll be protecting yourself and your organization. Users can control emails at their inbox by flagging unwanted and suspicious emails as junk. Organizations can also block suspicious emails at the email server by blacklisting known malicious email servers and even blocking emails from entire countries, domains, or IP address ranges. Many email servers have additional controls designed to identify and block malicious emails. The next way to protect against phishing is to block access to fraudulent and malicious websites. This can be done at the user level by accessing the internet only with web browsers that show a warning if users attempt to go to a fraudulent site. Most modern browsers have security settings that can be configured to do this. Also, organizations can install firewalls or proxy servers that prevent users from accessing known bad websites. The third step you can take is to use a password manager. This is a digital safe that can generate and store strong and unique passwords for any site that needs one. That way you're not reusing the same passwords on different websites. So even if one of your passwords gets compromised in a phishing attack, it won't work anywhere else. Fourth is multi-factor authentication. This is a stronger form of authentication than just passwords. It requires a password plus at least a device you have or a biometric factor like a fingerprint. That way, even if the attacker gets your username and password, they can't log in without the other factor. Finally, we have security training. If users know not to open phishing emails and click on manipulated links, phishing wouldn't be such a serious problem. Teach users how to recognize phishing attacks. Explain why they should be suspicious of urgent emails and how to hover over links to see if they're legitimate or not. You can also conduct phishing simulations to test how many users might fall for an actual phishing attack. When it comes to smishing, the best way to protect against this threat is also with security training. Train users how to spot suspicious text messages. They should also be trained to never click on links in suspicious text messages, respond to suspicious text messages, or send money or make purchases based on text messages without confirming through some other method like a phone call directly to a person or company. If you get repeated unwanted text messages from the same number, those can be blocked in the phone settings for both iPhone and Android mobile phones. Also, check to see if your smartphone has other settings options to filter or block texts from unknown senders. Implementing these and the other controls I covered in this video will help protect you and your organization from the threats of phishing and smishing. Business email compromise, or BEC for short, is a cybercrime that can cost organizations a lot of money if they become victims. In this video, I'll cover what BEC attacks are and why they can be so dangerous. BEC attacks usually start with criminals hacking into email accounts and using them to pretend to be someone they're not. The criminals will then use the hacked email accounts to impersonate C-level executives, finance teams, or even suppliers. Their goal is to trick employees into making large payments or changing the payment process to send funds to a scammer's bank account. The most common way the email accounts are hacked is through a phishing attack. Since the BEC criminals are going after specific email accounts, this is considered spear phishing. I cover phishing in another video in this course. So BEC attackers typically combine phishing, social engineering, and financial fraud to pull off these scams. And it's likely they'll soon add another technology to the mix, deepfake audio generated by artificial intelligence, to make the request even more convincing to the victim. I cover deepfakes in another video in this course. BEC criminals will sometimes try to use spoofed emails where the email header is forged to look like it's coming from somewhere it's not. Or they'll use lookalike domains to try to make their email look legitimate. While these methods of faking email senders might be easier than hacking into an email account, they aren't as effective at tricking the victims. Variations of BEC attacks include the false invoice scam, tricking the finance team to send a vendor invoice payment to a fraudulent account. Payroll diversion, tricking HR to change the direct deposit banking information for an employee to send salary payments to a fraudulent account. CEO fraud, tricking the finance team to send an emergency wire transfer for the CEO which goes to a fraudulent account. The gift card scam, tricking the victim to buy gift cards for staff or clients, then send the serial numbers of the cards to the attacker. And homebuyer fraud, tricking homebuyers into transferring funds to a fraudulent account. While BEC may not be the most common cybersecurity threat, it is easily the most costly type of cybercrime. According to the FBI, losses in the U.S. alone to BEC scams in 2021 were nearly $2.4 billion. That's up more than 30% from the year before, showing that BEC attacks are effective and increasing. And those losses are just in the U.S. and just from the cases that are reported. The worldwide losses are much higher. The huge payoffs, ease of execution, and low risks of BEC attacks are attracting criminals all around the world. Because it's so attractive to attackers, we can expect business email compromise to be a big part of the cybersecurity threat landscape well into the future. Because business email compromise, or BEC, has characteristics similar to phishing attacks, some of the ways to protect against it will overlap. In this video, I'll cover these as well as some unique methods to protect against BEC attacks. First, like with phishing, you can protect against BEC by implementing email filtering controls on your email server. This will help prevent email attacks designed to trick users into giving away their credentials. And because BEC attackers will sometimes try to spoof legitimate domains in their emails, consider configuring email protocols like SPF, DKIM, and DMARC to reduce this type of spoofing. For instance, DKIM can be used to reject emails where the displayed domain doesn't match the domain of the originating email server. Mike Chappell gives a good overview of these protocols in his CompTIA Cybersecurity Analyst Plus course on LinkedIn Learning. Next, enable multi-factor authentication, or MFA, especially on email accounts. This will significantly reduce the chances of an attacker taking control of an email account with just a username and password. Once enabled, never disable MFA. User security awareness training is another important protection against BEC attacks. Train users about these attacks and that they should be suspicious of urgent-sounding or unusual emails that request transferring funds. Show them how to spot lookalike domains used in emails. Teach them to confirm these financial transaction requests out of band, meaning through some method other than email, such as calling the person or meeting with them directly. And any change in payment instructions should be verified, no matter how it is sent or who it comes from. Another way to protect against BEC is to add a warning banner to emails coming from outside your organization. Marking external emails helps warn users that an email spoofed to look like it's from someone within the organization really isn't. Then train users to understand what these warning banners mean and why they're important. If you or someone in your organization is a victim of a BEC scam, you should contact your financial institution immediately and tell them what happened. In some cases, money transfers can be frozen or canceled. Next, if you're in the U.S., report the crime to your local FBI field office. If you're outside the U.S., contact your equivalent law enforcement agency. Also, if you're in the U.S., file a complaint with the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center at ic3.gov. Business email compromise is a growing problem on the cybersecurity threat landscape. Take the steps described in this video to reduce the chances that you or your organization will become a victim of a BEC attack. While the term botnets may conjure up images of robots taking over the world like in a sci-fi movie, the reality is different. Let's take a look at botnets and DDoS attacks. A botnet is a collection of computers or Internet of Things devices which have been infected by malware, allowing a malicious actor to take remote control of them. Because so many systems can come under one attacker's control, botnets can become a serious force multiplier, allowing an attacker to inflict a lot more damage than they could accomplish on their own. And compromised systems that become part of a botnet are sometimes called zombies, because they are no longer able to control their own actions. Once compromised, botnets can be used for many types of cyber attacks, including distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks, spam and phishing campaigns, spreading malware, brute force and other cyber attacks, and crypto mining. The terms botnets and DDoS attacks are related but not the same. Botnets are the actors. DDoS attacks are the actions. A DDoS attack is an attempt to make an online service, usually a website, unavailable by overwhelming it with traffic from many sources. With sometimes thousands of zombie computers at their disposal, attackers will often use botnets to flood their target websites with millions of HTTP browser-based requests per second. These traffic floods can disrupt or completely block the services of targeted websites. And DDoS attacks can last hours, days, or even weeks. In fact, one DDoS attack in 2021 lasted more than 776 hours, which is over a full month. DDoS attacks are frequently used for extortion. The attackers behind botnets will often send emails to organizations threatening to launch the DDoS attack if a ransom isn't paid. If they don't get the ransom, they'll gradually ramp up the DDoS attack to put pressure on their victims to pay quickly. Because botnets are so common and they can be used to make a lot of money, some botnet owners sell DDoS attacks as a service. DDoS as a service enables any criminal to conduct these attacks without needing any technical skills or resources of their own. The ever-increasing number of poorly secured internet-connected devices and the chance to use them to make money is driving the growth of botnets and DDoS attacks. This is why we can expect botnets and DDoS attacks to continue playing a big role in the cybersecurity threat landscape for some time. Although botnets and distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks may be growing threats on the cybersecurity threat landscape, there are effective ways to minimize your exposure to them. In this video, I'll cover how to protect against botnet and DDoS attacks and how to keep your systems from becoming part of a botnet. We'll start by talking about 5 ways to protect your websites and online applications from DDoS attacks. First, you absolutely must have either firewalls or web application firewalls, or WAFs for short, in front of your websites. Firewalls and WAFs can be used to detect and block unwanted and abnormal traffic. They can also be used to control or throttle the traffic that reaches your applications. Firewalls and WAFs, though, can still be overwhelmed by DDoS attacks. The second way you can protect against DDoS attacks is by using load balancers or content delivery networks, or CDNs for short. Load balancers and CDNs can share the traffic load across servers in different locations, which waters down the DDoS attack. Third, consider using DDoS defense systems or service providers that specialize in protecting organizations from these attacks. Cloudflare, for instance, provides a service that can absorb DDoS traffic and route only legitimate traffic to your web servers. Next, a good network monitoring system will detect unusual internet traffic like a DDoS attack once it starts. Notifications from a network monitoring system will give you an early warning about the attack so you can respond quickly. And finally, develop a denial of service response plan. Define who will be on the response team in the event of a DDoS attack, and write down the procedures that must be followed in the event of an attack. When you have these protections in place, you can hire a qualified third-party firm to conduct a DDoS test. There are many security companies that specialize in pretend DDoS attacks, load tests, and other external threat simulations. They can help identify system misconfigurations, network bottlenecks, poor incident response, and more. Now let's talk about how to keep your systems from joining a botnet. Since the primary way systems are taken over and added to botnets is through the use of malware, the best way to protect your systems is by using effective anti-malware. Make sure you're using the latest version with the most current malware definitions. Next, you should monitor your system processes, investigating any that look unusual or take excessive CPU or memory. These can be signs that your system is part of a botnet. And of course, follow good enterprise security practices. Example practices include: make sure all your devices have strong passwords. Keep software, firmware, and applications updated and patched. Implement anti-spam controls on your email server. Use web filtering to block access to sites that commonly host malware. And conduct regular user security awareness training and phishing training. These may seem like basic security tasks, but they'll go a long way toward protecting your systems from becoming part of a botnet. Botnets and DDoS attacks are getting bigger and more common. And, like an arms race, their attack methods are getting more creative and evolving to overcome existing defense measures. Take the steps I covered in this video to protect your organization's data from botnet and DDoS threats. Zero-day attacks are one of the most feared threats in cybersecurity. So what exactly is a zero-day attack? Essentially, it's an exploit that targets a vulnerability in software or hardware unknown to the vendor and users. Because no one knows about the flaw, they haven't had a chance to patch it, leaving systems open to attacks. Here's how a zero-day attack typically unfolds. An attacker discovers an unknown vulnerability in a software or hardware product. Instead of reporting it, they create an exploit to take advantage of this weakness. Once the exploit is ready, they launch an attack, often causing significant damage before anyone knows what's happening. For example, the infamous Stuxnet worm was a zero-day exploit that targeted industrial control systems, causing widespread damage before it was discovered. Zero-day attacks can have devastating impacts. They can lead to data breaches, financial loss, and even physical damage, as seen with Stuxnet. Organizations can face severe repercussions, including loss of customer trust and regulatory penalties. Detecting zero-day attacks is incredibly challenging. Traditional security measures like antivirus and firewalls are often ineffective because they rely on known signatures to identify threats. This means that zero-day attacks can go undetected for long periods, allowing attackers to exploit vulnerabilities without being noticed. Zero-day attacks represent a significant and evolving threat in the cybersecurity landscape. Their ability to exploit unknown vulnerabilities makes them dangerous and difficult to defend against. Understanding the nature and potential impact of zero-day attacks is crucial for organizations striving to protect their systems and data. Zero-day attacks are among the most challenging cybersecurity threats to defend against because they exploit unknown vulnerabilities. Let's explore how you can protect your organization from these elusive threats. First, keeping your software and systems updated is crucial. Regular updates and patches can close vulnerabilities before attackers can exploit them. Make sure your organization has a robust patch management process in place. This helps ensure that all systems are up to date with the latest security patches. Next, leveraging threat intelligence is essential. You can take proactive steps to protect your systems by staying informed about emerging threats. Subscribe to threat intelligence feeds and remain connected with the cybersecurity community for timely updates about new vulnerabilities and exploits. For instance, subscribe to notifications from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, to receive valuable alerts and updates. Advanced monitoring and anomaly detection are critical in identifying potential zero-day attacks. Implement tools like Security Information and Event Management, or SIM systems, that use machine learning and AI to detect unusual activities in your network. SIM systems analyze patterns and behaviors to spot anomalies, aggregate data from various sources, and provide real-time threat detection. Regularly reviewing logs and conducting thorough audits can also help in early detection. Having a well-defined incident response plan is vital. Your plan should outline the steps to take immediately after detecting a zero-day attack. This includes isolating affected systems, conducting a detailed investigation, and communicating with stakeholders. Ensure your incident response team is well-trained and conducts regular drills to stay prepared. Employee training and awareness are also key components in your defense strategy. Educate your staff about security best practices and the importance of vigilance. Regular training sessions help employees recognize potential threats and respond appropriately. Encourage them to report suspicious activities and ensure that they understand their role in maintaining cybersecurity. Protecting against zero-day attacks requires a combination of proactive measures and preparedness. By staying proactive and vigilant, you can significantly reduce the risk of zero-day attacks and protect your organization from potential harm. You've probably seen some impressive CGI and special effects in recent sci-fi movies and TV shows, making the impossible look real. This same technology is now used in the real world for more sinister purposes. Welcome to the world of AI-based cyber attacks. Criminals are leveraging advanced AI software to execute a variety of cyber crimes, such as deepfake audio and video attacks. These tools can mimic voices, faces, and even behaviors, making social engineering attacks more convincing than ever. One notable example involves deepfake voice attacks, where the cloned voice of a CEO or executive is used to commit payment fraud. In these cases, employees are tricked into transferring large sums of money or altering payment processes based on instructions from what sounds like a trusted authority figure. Deepfake technology, including voice cloning apps, is becoming more accessible and sophisticated. All attackers need is enough audio or video of their target, which is often readily available online through interviews, podcasts, or social media. These attacks often pair with business email compromise or BEC attacks. For instance, an email that looks like it's from your CEO might be sent to someone in finance requesting an urgent payment. This email is followed by a phone call using deepfake audio of the CEO's voice, reinforcing the request. The combination of realistic email and voice can be incredibly convincing and difficult to detect. AI can also be used to enhance phishing attacks. AI-powered phishing emails can analyze past communications to craft messages that perfectly mimic the writing style of the person being impersonated, making these attacks even more believable and dangerous. As AI technology continues to advance, the threat landscape will evolve, making these AI-driven attacks more common and harder to spot. It's essential to stay vigilant and employ robust security measures to protect against these emerging threats. AI-based cyber attacks, including deepfakes and AI-powered phishing, are designed to be hard to detect, and this will only get more challenging as technology improves. But there are ways to protect yourself and your organization. Train users about AI-based technology, how it works, and how it can be used to conduct payment fraud and other attacks. Educate them on how to spot deepfake audios and videos by looking for unnatural speech cadence, low-quality audio and video, digital artifacts like noise in audio and video, unnatural movement in videos, unnatural blinking, unexpected shifts in lighting and skin tone, and poor lip syncing. Train users to recognize AI-powered phishing emails, which can analyze past communications to mimic writing styles and increase believability. Educate users to be cautious of emails that urgently request sensitive information or payments, come from unfamiliar or slightly altered email addresses, and contain links or attachments that seem out of context. Both deepfakes and phishing attacks often have typical social engineering red flags, like a sense of urgency. Attackers want you to act quickly without thinking. Watch out for unusual behavior. Attackers may not use the cloned voice or writing style perfectly, and the request might be something the actual person wouldn't usually say. Train users to verify any phone calls or emails requesting financial transactions or payment changes through other methods. The best way to verify a request is face-to-face, but if that's not possible, call the person back at their official phone number to confirm the request. And ask a test question that the person would know the answer to, but attackers probably wouldn't. For instance, their favorite sports team or a specific detail about their office. Ensure the finance department has authorization processes to confirm transactions and payment changes, which can't be done with a simple phone call or email. By staying vigilant and following these steps, you can better protect yourself and your organization from AI-based cyber attacks. Imagine a group of cybercriminals hiding in the shadows, carefully planning their next move to infiltrate a high-security network. They're not in a rush, they have time, resources, and advanced tools. This scenario describes the reality of advanced persistent threats, or APTs, one of today's most sophisticated and dangerous types of cyber threats. At its core, an APT is a prolonged and targeted cyber attack in which an intruder gains access to a network and remains undetected for an extended period. APTs have unique characteristics that set them apart from other threats. They are persistent, meaning attackers are determined to achieve their goals over a long period, often adapting their methods to stay under the radar. These threats are also sophisticated, employing advanced techniques to bypass security defenses. APTs are also highly targeted, focusing on specific organizations or industries, such as government agencies, financial institutions, and healthcare providers. Here's how APTs typically operate. The process usually begins with reconnaissance, where attackers gather as much information as possible about their target. Next, they move to the initial compromise stage, often gaining entry through phishing emails or exploiting known vulnerabilities. Once inside, attackers establish a foothold, installing backdoors and malware to ensure they can return even if discovered. They then escalate their privileges, allowing them to access more sensitive areas of the network. The attacker's next move is lateral movement, where they navigate through the network, avoiding detection while identifying valuable data. The final stages include data exfiltration, where they steal sensitive information, and maintain persistence, ensuring their presence remains undetected for future exploitation. The impact of APTs can be devastating. These threats can lead to severe data breaches, financial losses, reputational damage, and even pose risks to national security. For example, the healthcare industry has been a frequent target of APTs, with attackers aiming to steal patient data, which can be sold on the dark web for significant profit. Government agencies are also prime targets, with attackers seeking access to classified information that can be used for espionage or to disrupt national security. By being aware of how APTs operate and their potential impacts, organizations can better prepare to face this severe threat. In the following video, I'll cover strategies for defending against APTs. Advanced Persistent Threats, or APTs, are among the most insidious cyber threats organizations face today. In this video, I'll show you how you can protect your organization from these sophisticated attacks. First, leverage threat intelligence. Staying informed about emerging threats is crucial. By subscribing to threat intelligence feeds and connecting with the cybersecurity community, you can receive timely updates about new vulnerabilities and exploits. For example, subscribing to notifications from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, can provide valuable alerts and updates. A multi-layered security approach is essential in defending against APTs. This means implementing security measures like firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and antivirus software. Additionally, regular software updates and patch management are crucial. Ensuring all systems are up to date with the latest security patches helps close vulnerabilities before attackers can exploit them. Your employees play a key role in preventing APTs. Regular security awareness training sessions are essential. Educate your staff about security best practices and the importance of vigilance. Training helps employees recognize potential threats and respond appropriately. Encourage them to report suspicious activities and ensure they understand their role in maintaining cybersecurity. Finally, having a well-defined incident response plan is vital. Your plan should detail the actions to take when an APT is detected. This involves isolating compromised systems, thoroughly investigating, and keeping stakeholders informed. Ensure your incident response team is well-trained and frequently conducts drills to maintain readiness. Protecting against advanced persistent threats demands a blend of proactive strategies and thorough preparation. By staying alert and taking proactive steps, you can safeguard your organization from these sophisticated threats. When we think about the cybersecurity threat landscape, it's easy to focus on attackers coming from the outside. But internal threats can sometimes be just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than outside threats. In this video, I'll cover what insider threats are and why we should be concerned about them. Insiders can include anybody who has inside information about your organization's data, IT systems, and security practices. This can include current or former employees, vendors with internal access, third-party contractors, and business partners. The reason why insider threats can sometimes be more dangerous than outside threats is because trusted insiders have been given access to assets and data based on that trust, and that access can be misused or abused. Insider attacks can also be hard to detect because trusted insiders may have legitimate access that allows them to access and steal data without going through firewalls or other controls that could track their activity. Types of malicious insider attacks include sabotage, where the goal is to damage systems or destroy data; fraud, which can come in many forms but often involves criminal financial transactions; theft of sensitive data or intellectual property; and espionage, where the attacker steals sensitive data to sell to competitors. An example of a real-world malicious insider attack was the case of a trusted software engineer at a cloud services provider who went rogue. She hacked into one of their customers using a firewall vulnerability that she found. She was then able to access accounts of millions of credit card customers. The hacked company recovered from the attack and patched the vulnerability, but they estimated the total cost of the incident to be around $150 million. Unintentional insider threats include human error, bad judgment, falling victim to a phishing attack or malware, and unintentionally aiding an attacker. An example of an unintentional insider threat was the case of an employee who had a question about how to format some of the data on a company spreadsheet. He emailed the spreadsheet to his wife's personal email account to ask her for help. While this may have seemed like a harmless action, it turned out that the spreadsheet had hidden columns which included sensitive employee data. This turned his simple email into a major security breach that had to be reported to the state's attorney general and likely cost the company millions of dollars. The Ponemon Institute regularly publishes reports on the cost of insider threats. Their research shows that the average cost from insider threats in North American companies is millions of dollars, and the cost is rising every year. That's why we can expect that insider threats will continue to hold a place in the cybersecurity threat landscape for years to come.